Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Um, we are just starting up now, and we are just getting all our participants into the webinar. Welcome so much. We're looking forward to the webinar, and we're so happy that you took some time. I know it's 11 o'clock on a Wednesday, so obviously you have other places to be, but you're here, so well done. It's already a step in the right direction if you're looking to start with student accommodation. So a very, very warm welcome. I think it's all cold all over the country today. We even have Durban people complaining that it's cold. So then you must know that, there's really a cold front all over. We are all, I hope you're all nice and warm where you are. If you're not, grab a blanket. You don't want to get up for this. You want to be here. Gerard, our special guest, which I will introduce just now, he has some really, really awesome learnings for us. So make sure that you're nice and warm. Get a pen and paper, put your phone on silent, take this hour for your learning and your development, and get everything ready. So if you're not ready, if you haven't done that, you can do it very, very quickly. All right, cool. So for those guys, for the people here on the webinar that don't know me, my name is Retha van Rooyen, and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called My Student House. What do? We manage students. We help landlords that want to have students, or that's new, that don't know what to do or how it works. We help them to get into the student accommodation market. What does that mean? We help to find a property for you. We can train you on how to do it if you want to do it yourself. We help with conversions. We'll find students for you. We'll put them in. We'll chase whoever needs to be chased. Accreditation we'll help you with. So we kind of do the end-to-end process for you as a landlord. And that's what we do. And we have students all over the country at the moment in 4 different provinces. And we've worked with more than 13 different institutions. We've gone through the accreditation process, whether it was with universities or with NSFAS for over 50 buildings. Since we started, we've just like doubled in numbers under management, students under management every single year. So it's been crazy, it's been hectic, but also an amazing, amazing journey. And today we want to share with you also how to do it yourself. If you want to do it yourself and you're looking for that property, you haven't started yet, I've got the perfect person for you, okay? So Gerard is definitely an analytical person. He does his research, and I'm not going to steal his thunder at all. But all I can say is that if you're looking to start, you're going to learn so much. If you're looking for that perfect property, you're going to learn so much from him today. Gerard has bought his first property, and today he's going to share with us everything. How has it been for him? What was his learnings? How did he find it? What was the journey like? And then just so that you don't have to you can be prepared, and you don't have to get into the same issues or the same lessons, challenges that he faced. We don't have issues, right? Challenges that he faced, and you can be better prepared. So that is why we are here today. And through what I'm going to do is over the next year, yes, the whole year, we're going to about every quarter, so like every 3 months, we're going to have a webinar like this. Why? What are we going to cover? Student accommodation is very cyclical. So it starts with searching, then you're buying, then you're converting, then you're putting students in, then you're managing, and then you get to your end of year maintenance again. Then you have to accredit. A lot of things change, a lot of things happen, and it's very cyclical in a year. So what I want to do is I'm going to take you on a journey throughout this time where we will cover whatever is topical for that specific period of time. Okay, so we're starting with this one. It's our very first one, and we're going to be focusing on the first step that you have to do is obviously search. Do search and do your homework. And then from there, we'll go into the next phases of that cyclical annual life cycle that is in student accommodation. So that's the journey. That is what we're going to do. So if you've been to this one, don't think you don't have to attend the next one. I think it'll just build onto the learning and the understanding. And every time I will bring a special guest, someone that has done it, that has been through it, and that can give you that practical advice that they themselves also found. So that is the long and short of it. I do have a training also that I'll tell you a bit later as well, if you want to attend that. That's going to be in the first week in November. But I will tell you after Gerard has given us his story. As we go through the discussion, please put your comments, your questions into the chat. And, we're going to go through Gerard's presentation. And then after that, we will then try and answer as many of the questions as we possibly can. Don't wait to ask it. Ask it as we go through it, because we don't want you to forget it. But, just we will get to your question. So ask it and we'll get to that. And without any further ado, Gerard, up to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks. Good morning, Retha. And yeah, thanks for that wonderful introduction. And good morning to our guests and to Ladybugs for organizing the session. I think for me, when Retha actually reached out to me, it was a no-brainer for me to come on board to kind of share my experience. I think in life, that's what we need to do. It's the principle behind each one teach one. So I've gone through this process, and I'm sure there's someone in the audience that's sitting there that's not sure how to do it, what next to do. So I think through my experience, I'm hoping it would shed some light, and that by the end of this presentation or by the end of this session, you'll know what your next steps would be. So please allow me to kind of share my deck. I trust everyone can see my PowerPoint deck. Cool, thank you. So yeah, the title is From Search to Success. So really just taking you through my journey. I think what is quite important is really just to give you a bit of background in terms of who am I. So my background, I'm age 49, a God-fearing individual. I do consider myself as a very authentic person. What you see is what you get. And as you can see in the picture, that's my family, supported by my wife and 3 boys. I think it's quite a mission to kind of raise 3 boys. Bit about my professional career. As Retha mentioned, I'm a director and founding member of a market research company called African Response. I'm 25 years in the market research industry. And I think with that, it brings a lot of research knowledge and analytical knowledge as well. My company, we specialize in the low to middle income segment. But in 2023, I find myself to what next for me? Where is my journey going? And with that, I needed to then start diversifying my professional pursuit. And hence I ended into the property investment market as well. And the key there was really taking the market research knowledge I had and the analytical knowledge to then say, this is what I want to kind of do going forward. So where did it all start? And I think for me, this is a very key critical element that I'd like to encourage everyone to go through. It's important that you equip yourself with the correct knowledge so that you don't go blindly into this experience as well. You want to make the right decision when you make this investment. It's not money that you want to flush down the drain. So it's quite expensive, but at the same time, it's also very rewarding. So where did this all start? It started with very informal conversation with a family friend, Leroy Slava. He's got about over 12 years of experience. This was just over formal coffee sessions, just inquiring how he got into the market, what were some of the pitfalls that he went through, what did he learn, how did he do it, and it just led my interest, and that evolved through having those conversations. So what did I start doing? From my perspective, I spent in a lot of time reading and researching the property market. If there's one thing that I can encourage you guys, there's a lot of information on the internet as well. Please go onto the internet, get the proper websites that you can access, and go through this information. What's also key is that once you've gone through this process, it's very critical that you also then prepare a list of questions. Make sure that you prepare all the questions that you want to kind of go into and have conversation with experts in the markets. These questions will then guide you through the process in terms of what next and how do you go about it. So what did this aid me in? It then gave me the ins and outs about the property market, understanding that there's different options that you can invest in, whether it's a single-let property, a multi-let property, that means that there's more than one person living on the property, and what are the best yields that you can get. These are your return of investments as well. And as today, we're having this property webinar, that's the right kind of places where you can plug yourself in. But I think, as you can see in the picture on my left-hand side, I attended a 2-day student workshop, and this was in 2023, in June, where Retha did a show and tell. And I think, going through that experience, I was sold on student accommodation. And in the slides to come, I'll share a bit more about that. But as you can see from the time duration that I spent in terms of before making that decision, I really spent between 12 to 18 months understanding what this is all about. You do not want to get into this without preparing for it. So why did I choose student accommodation? There were 3 main reasons why I chose student accommodation. First and foremost, as I indicated, from speaking to experts, they advised me not to get into single letting property. And the main reason for that is that single letting property, there's a low return of investment. It would be equivalent to taking your money and putting it in the bank and saving. Those are kind of the returns that you looked at. So then, secondly, what was critical for me is, and I think you can see from this, the analytical brain that came through as well. I then compared to say, okay, what is the best interest rate that I could get? And this was in 2023. So you could see from this exercise that the best interest rate at the point in time I could only get was around 12.8%. Now, when I looked at the student accommodation and I looked at what are some of the returns that you can get, from a student accommodation, it can range anything between 22 to 30%. Just depending on how much money you invest in the property as well. So you can see from this exercise, from my perspective, it was a no-brainer in terms of why I chose student accommodation. Then the third most important reason for me, as Retha mentioned in her introduction, in terms of their portfolio and what they do. I then looked at this and said, you know, based on that session that I attended, where they kind of shared, you know, they manage the process from start to finish. And with me having a full-time job, this was a no-brainer for me. Twofold. One, I might have not had the time to kind of invest in making sure that the property is ready. Secondly, from a knowledge perspective as well, I was a rookie in 2023. I didn't understand, although I researched the ins and outs of this, you still need to go through the process with a trusted partner. And hence I chose my student house because they manage the process from end to end. And why do I say this is that based on the session, and you've seen the book that was in my hand. There's a book that was written by Retha herself as well, where she kind of shares her experiences. And for me, this was very close to me to say, okay, I enjoy the benefits of Retha's mistakes and my student house mistakes and learnings. And for me, the key critical thing is that the process is tried and tested. And that's what I want to kind of leave with you in terms of when you look at student accommodation, tap into these communities, tap into these networks where people are knowledgeable, and it makes the process so much easier. I just want to pause here just to see, Retha, if there's anything else that you can add, or if there's a specific question that talks to this before I go to the next slide.
Yeah, I think, Gerard, you know, you talk there about a show and tell. So that was the first year that we did a show and tell. So what it was, I just wanted to clarify for people, is, you know, it was I call it a bus tour because we literally we get together people that want to understand and learn and know more, and we go. It was held in Cape Town. We all get on the bus, and for half a day, I think it turned out to be like half a day, we just literally go from different types of properties that we physically went to, and we said, this is the benefits. You can see this is the layout of a commune type of property. This is the layout, and this is how a flats work, you know, and what you can do in terms of a conversion. So now in the future, when you look at something, you think, oh, I can do this. So you get a lot of practical ideas on how to do different setups, different scenarios, so that when you're looking for a property as well, you can start making better decisions because you kind of have that picture in your mind already. I think for me also, when I started, that was sort of a difficult thing, is to see that picture and to know what it will look like later. So that was the whole purpose of it. Do you think that being there physically made a big difference for you, instead of just reading about it?
No, I think, Retha, and it's such a good question that you ask as well, because prior to the visit, there was different proposals that I looked at. And when I saw the returns, I couldn't actually believe the returns. And to say, is this really, can you really make from a 2-bedroom this amount of money? And going and physically kind of seeing how the setup works, that whole show and tell experience made more sense to me to say, okay, this is how they do it. This is how they potentially convert a 2-bedroom apartment and making it comfortable into either a 6-student a place. And I think for me, that experience was so critical. And that show and tell actually then convinced me to say, no, this is the route for me to go. And purely, as I stated here, when you look at the returns, it just made sense for me. And I think I can not overemphasize the importance of plugging into those sessions.
Yeah. And I think also I try to do, multiple things, not just things that work, but also things that don't work so well. So you can see both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
But at least I
No,
can
for
now
sure.
say that that property is now working. It's now perfect.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Inside a joke. All right, sorry, you can continue.
Cool. Thanks. So yeah, so my first deal, how did I find it? As you can gather from this conversation, is that what is important is to plug into the correct communities. Um, if I was not in the correct communities, and what do I mean by communities? I went to a formal training program through a company called TJ Tribe Academy. Uh, if 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 anyone here in the room wants to know more, you can also then just Google the gentleman to write Jack on the internet, and you'll see a lot of information and relevant information coming up around this. But that's where it all started for me as well. It's quite critical that when you go into this property industry, surround yourself with the right people, get into the right circles. It's through these networking sessions, through these webinars, through the show and tells, that's where you meet the relevant people, people within the industry, and they then can plug you into the right communities, which you can then join. And for me, that was so critical because I'll give you an example. Initially, after my trip to Cape Town, I went and tried to do property searches on my own. And to my surprise, I thought that this would be a very easy process in terms of, all I need to look for is a 3-4 bedroom house and then I can just convert it. It wasn't as easy as that. There's lots of requirements that you need to understand. There's the NASFAS accreditation process that you need to understand. So for me, ultimately, what I then made the decision is to say, let me rather trust the process. Let me go back to my student house and see what's available. And through that, they were also then able to kind of find the first property for me as well. So this, I call it my pride and joy. My property is in Potchefstroom. It was initially a normal residential house, a 6-bedroom house, which we then converted into a 26-bed student house. I think as you go along and understand the student accommodation property market, you'll understand how some of these rooms gets converted into single rooms and double rooms, and why this is done. Another key critical for me why this property was so important was that it is within walking distance from the university. It is literally less than 2 kilometers from the university. What makes this so important is that it's the close proximity to the university. And from a safety point of view as well, these guys can then freely walk in terms of from the house to the university at any given point in time because of that proximity as well. And I think what's important from a student accommodation is the closer you are to the university, the better it is for you. Cool.
Gerard, a quick question here. Were you surprised to be able to go from a 6-bedroom house to 26 students?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very good question, Retha, because initially when we did the first site inspection, I looked at this and said, I cannot see how 26 people are going to fit in here. I just couldn't understand it. But once you then start seeing the plans and having conversations, at the point in time, I had the conversation with the project manager, my student house project manager, and she then started doing the layout of the property. And once you did the layout of the property, only then did it start making sense in terms of understanding the square meterage for a single bed versus a double bed, and the way she then kind of maneuvered the plans as well to make sure that we could fit all 26 students as well. So what you can also see from this picture, you have the main house, and then on the right side is that was initially a garage. And what we then did is we then also converted the garage. It was a double garage with a servant quarters at the back as well. And to give you an idea, the garage was then converted, and you've got 8 students that occupies the outside building, and the inside building is the balance where we then fitted the 18 students as well. So it again here, as you go through this process, it's advisable that you kind of also plug into these guys, that you can then physically also go through this and experience it as well. I hope I answered you, Retha.
Yeah, no, you did. Thank you.
Cool. So thanks. Then moving on, what are some of the lessons and learnings that I got from my first property? I think if there's any point in this presentation, I think this is the key critical element. So I would encourage all of you guys just to furiously make notes, and also maybe based on this, prepare a list of your questions that you would like to ask. So here we go. So from a funding perspective, you go through the process in terms of doing an application through the banks. And with what I initially thought would be a very easy process, and I would qualify for at least a 90% bond. To my surprise, I did not qualify for a 90% bond. The bank only wanted to fund the project. I only got approval for 60% of the project value. So this then left me with a shortfall of R1 million. And you know, in business, you always have different challenges and different curveballs that gets thrown at you. At this point in time, I could have just said, there's no ways that I can do this. Let me rather pack up and reject this and then move on and look for the next property. But it was so important for me to trust the process and say, okay, what else can I do from my perspective? And one night I couldn't actually fall asleep, and I kept on how am I going to make. I think I was very determined to make that first investment. So these were some of the ideas that started coming through. And it's quite key, you know, use what you have at your disposal. Sometimes you might not have all the funds available to do a project, but again, do your research, speak to the experts in the market to understand how can you use different avenues to kind of fund your projects. So these are some examples in terms of how I funded the balance of my project. My credit cards, I mixed both my credit cards. What was also critical as I went through this process, I knew I wouldn't have all the renovation cost. So I put payment plans in place as well, had different conversation with the service providers that did the construction to say, let me put a payment plan together so that when we go into this, you fully understand how you're going to fund the project. Then tap into your family as well. I'm sure many of you might have an uncle that's well off or a relative that's got access to money. Tap into those networks as well. And another key critical point is that at the time, my vehicle was paid off. And another way of getting those funds is that I refinanced my vehicle to kind of get to the capital as well. And based on this, I was then able to kind of come up with that shortfall of R1 million. So
Gerard,
cool.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask you, how do you sleep at night? But well done. I think you were very creative. You know, and I think also when I started, I also did very, very similar things. I'm still paying off some of my credit cards, but it feels like I never want to pay them off because they just keep on working for me. But yeah, but well done. And how did you, you know, and you still talking to the family, right?
Yeah, no. I think it's a very, very interesting dynamic. And you know, when you reach out to individuals, initially, Retha, the people or the family members that I thought would help me were not the ones that helped me. And you know, those are some of the family dynamics that one needs to kind of grow through. And to my surprise, the person that I least expected me to assist me was the person that actually came through for me. But again, you know, I think it's important to always have good business principles as well. It You'll see from the research knowledge that I've used, it's quite important that when you do the exercise, please make sure you understand the full scale of the project. And when I say the full scale of the project, understand it's the bond costs to get the property, there's the renovation cost, there's the lawyer's fees that goes with that, the property needs to be equipped with furniture as well. And key important thing as well, when you look at the complete funding, different universities work on different payment plans. And in my case, the first payment from the university only came through in either end of March or April, at the beginning of April. So that meant that I needed to have an extra 20 or 30% funding to make allowance for the running of the property for the first 3 months as well, until that funds came through. But as you said, these are some of the options that you have available to you. Sometimes, you know, when they talk about taking out good credit and making credit work for you, these are the examples. You use this credit to kind of make the investment as well. You don't use credit for assets that is not going to yield the right returns for you. Cool. So then moving from a timing perspective, as Retha mentioned, student accommodation is very seasonal. There's different phases of student accommodation. There's the initial phase where you need to search and sign and get bond approvals for your property. Then you have the renovation, then the viewing that needs to take place and intake. And yeah, I think with my first property, I started the process very late. This deal came through around September, October, which was quite late, typically in terms of when to kind of kickstart the process. But as I indicated, I was very determined to get the first property. So anything that came in my way as a challenge, I just made sure I look forward and said, you know, through determination, I am going to get through this as well. So from my perspective, through this process, these are some of the tips I can share with you. Is if you are keen to get into this space, start the process early. Do the searching of your property and get the deal signed off by August. This will then allow you enough time to do the proper your renovations as well. And as we all know, building projects are always challenging as well. You start with one thing, it can lead to something else that also needs to be replaced as well. So it's quite important that you leave enough time for your renovations project. Because this then enables you to have your property ready by the beginning of December. This is a nice way to kind of then showcase the property to anyone that is interested in the property as well, because then you physically show them what it's going to look like, rather than conceptually telling them what it looks like. That then gives you the ability to have the property ready so that intake can happen December, January, and then by mid-January, that's when your occupation of the students then come through and are ready for the university. Then you've heard me quite a lot talking about construction. Yeah, guys, if there's one thing I can share today is that one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is don't try and cut corners wanting to save. Rather use the trusted service providers. As Retha has indicated, my student house have access to different service providers, from the team that does renovation, to the teams that assist from an accreditation perspective. Please, my advice is, if you're new to this industry, just make sure you get partners that knows this. You don't want to make that investment, this huge investment, and then your property doesn't meet these requirements. It is so super critical that you make sure you get trusted partners to get you through the process as well. What happened to me is I thought I'm going to save money, got someone else on board. There were delays from cost. It then ended up costing me more money to get the property ready. There was a lot of back and forth in terms of budget sign-offs. It was a mess. I'm actually surprised that I actually got the property ready at the end of January, at the end of December, early January, because as I've mentioned, it's very seasonal. If your property is not ready for the inspection and your property doesn't get accredited at a certain time, you kind of almost potentially would waste a full year of that investment that you've made if you do not meet the necessary requirements.
And I think also, what's important is that, yes, you might think, oh, but the students aren't there yet. But, you have to be finished with your property before you can even submit it for accreditation. And that, if it's NSFAS accreditation, could take anything. The other day I did a rough calculation. That's about a 6-week process, minimum a 6-week process. And then, of course, universities have earlier accreditation closure dates if they do the accreditation. So you might end up sitting with, them closing in November already. So it's very important to just get the timing right and make sure that your construction people know what they're doing and that they're pushing because there's urgency and they know why. And also don't forget that all these guys are on December breaks, right? Between Christmas and New Year. And if you're in a small town and you only have a choice of 3 people and they're all on holiday and, all of a sudden they're only open mid-January again, you're going to put yourself under a lot of pressure that's not necessary. So construction, also start that early, get good people and just push hard to get it done. Give them almost incentives to finish early, I would say. A piece of advice from me anyway.
No, 100%, Retha. I think, if there's anything around this, is two critical things, as you mentioned. It's the planning, and then it's the timing and setting deadlines as well. The construction guys must buy into that deadline as well. And as Retha mentioned, you know, it's critical. I did not listen to that advice at the time, but through my pain points, I'll never ever make that mistake again. So rather pay and give the incentives so that you can make sure your property is ready. Then lastly, you know, be prepared for the unexpected. Life, business will always throw curveballs at you. Once the property was ready, it was newly renovated. I thought there is no maintenance that I'm going to do for the next 6 months. Yeah, to my surprise, the first month of operating, I had a burst geyser, literally first 2 weeks. I also experienced, the students experience a weekend without having power. And this was due to municipal delays. Because I also didn't use the proper service providers, they potentially used inferior quality products. I needed to replace 4 broken handles in the first month. And then from a maintenance point of view, I had block pipe and drains as well. So, you know, as mentioned, I thought, you know, this is a newly renovated property, everything should be fine. What I didn't realize is, and if in hindsight, this is something that I should have been prepared for, because as I mentioned, this was a normal residential property, potentially a family of 5 to 6 individuals staying in this property with the domestic. Now you take a property of 5 to 6 and you convert it into having 24 to 26 students on this property. You can see the usage consumption is not going to be the same. So as part of your planning, also just make sure your funds allow for this as well, to have a contingency fund for the first month, because these things are bound to happen in your first month. It's just a mere fact that when you have more people on the property, maintenance and stuff like that should be high on your priority, because you've got now, instead of 6 to 8 people, you've now got 24 people to 26 people on your property as well. Cool. So that's that. Then for me, there might be lots of people here in the audience. I think these are just some tips and things for you to consider. Please do your homework. Do not rush the process. It's very critical. You've got, it's a huge investment. You want the investment to pay off for you. Second point is learn from others that are ahead of you. I'll never forget the first time when I attended the property show and tell in Cape Town. I felt very uncomfortable. I knew only about 10% of student accommodation at the time, but being uncomfortable, asking the right question, and being in the right environment is so important. That actually led me to having my first property. The third point is, please do not be afraid to invest in your learning and growth. Knowledge is power. So please plug into communities. I personally went on board and had a property coach to kind of guide me through those process. Even up until now, I still make sure I stay abreast in terms of what's happening in this. Then it's also important as well that once you get the learnings from this, the key is applying these teachings. It's pointless getting the knowledge if you don't apply the teachings as well. Then last but not least, it's, for me, it's quite critical in terms of tapping into the correct networks. The benefits there is the companies like My Student House, they have processes and systems in place to kind of manage this. They've done this before. They've burned their fingers before. They've taken the mistakes and then made sure that there's now proper processes in place, proper network of service providers, and having the right management team to kind of guide you through this process. I'm a beneficiary of this, and today I can tell you it works. Then, just in closing, I thought it's quite important that I share this with you, why I decided to invest in property. It's really, for me, it's about leaving a family legacy. I'm the first one to kind of start this generational wealth. I might not benefit all of it now, but hopefully one day my grandchildren would benefit from this. Second point, as we know, property, there's only capital appreciation from investing in this. And as you go deeper into this, you kind of understand, once you get into the rezoning of your property as well, how you then also can tap into your equity. And that is what I'm planning to do. The next phase, next step of my project is really the rezoning of my property is almost completed. Once that process is done and dusted, I'll be able to tap into that equity to then increase and diversify my property portfolio. And then in my parting and closing ways, if you ever wanted to invest in property, kickstart that process today. And I want to wish every single person here attending the session all the best. And yeah, make sure you get into it today. Thank you, Retha.
Gerard, I love what you're saying about your ongoing learning experience, because I think every year feels different. Every year for me, in some cases, like, did we not go through this last year? Why does it have to be so different this year? And it's just purely because, NSFAS changes their rules, the MEC for education decides he wants to change things. The rules change. All of a sudden, they're not funding certain courses anymore. All of a sudden, they need more documents for your property compliance because maybe something happened. So it really is important to kind of continuously grow and learn on all the new things that's happening. And I think one of the most important things that's actually happening right now in student accommodation is the NSFAS pilot. Now, I don't know if anybody has heard about that, but they have a direct payment system now where they are going to be, they're going to pay landlords directly. Well, they have been already, because we have been on the pilot. Not all universities are being paid directly by NSFAS through their processes. They still pay the university, and the university pays us. But this pilot thing is happening, and within the next 2 years, I believe every single TVET college and university will be on it. So, look out for news articles around that. Keep up to date with what is happening in that space. And that's also what my teachings, my YouTube channel, all of that talks a lot about this NSFAS pilot that's happening, and for people to be ready, because some things that they want could take a very long time, because you have to get the municipality involved. So rather that you start doing it now, so that you're ready for that in a year and a half, if not next year already, but in a year and a half's time, and you're not sitting there and you can't get accredited, and then your whole business model falls through. And we are, in any case, planning to just give our landlords, the ones, I think we've started the process already, the guys have started it, but we'll be giving our landlords a bit of training on that this is the changes, this is what's happening, so that they can, and we're putting it together, a plan, so that they can already start putting away funds or whatever if they need to change anything to get that A grade accreditation that NSFAS has is starting to roll out and standardizing across the whole country. So, Gerard, thank you so much. Appreciate your time and all your learnings. I think everybody here can say that they've learned a lot. So let's go to some of the questions, yeah, because I see there's been a few questions coming through. Nomagugu says, I've been discouraged from buying such a project in West Dean. I'm assuming like a student house commune type of thing. Any pointers there? And Edgar said it's oversaturated and there's an oversupply and rather look elsewhere. So, yeah, I have to agree with Edgar at this point in time. People are really competing on quality there now. So low prices and your product must be extra, not even just the basics that NSFAS want. And this is messages that's been coming through from, from very people with huge properties. They're struggling to fill up their places. And also remember Wits in that space, in traditionally and still, because they're not in the pilot yet, they used to have 100 beds or more you could get accredited. So every single landlord that has less than 100 beds are catering for UJ, which kind of, pushes the demand or the supply a bit too high for the demand there. So I do agree with that. There's much easier places to do than that. So if you're going to spend the money, yeah, there's other places that I would rather recommend. Gerard, why didn't you go to Joburg? Why did you go to Potch?
So I think, Retha, again, it's tapping into these sessions that you've had. If I can recall, in the conversation that you had last year, we also did at that time already talk about Johannesburg, and with that being fully saturated as well. So I think for me, it's what you were saying, Retha. It's all about the learning process that you go through. Make sure that you tap into the networks, the experts, where you can then kind of feed off them. Then there's news alerts, that comes through in terms of what's happening. For me, any advice that I would give someone, and I know it comes potentially naturally to me because I'm a market researcher, is just to always ask the questions from the right people. Get the experts, tap into the likes of Retha and them that knows the industry, pose these questions to them, and they will kind of guide you in terms of which markets are saturated or which areas are saturated, and rather go to areas that are not as saturated as well. I mean, when we spoke, Rita, you mentioned around Port Elizabeth at the time, that there's opportunities like there instead of looking at Johannesburg, things like that. For me, is the advice that I would give.
All right, great. I see. So while we're talking about oversupply and demand, I also want to answer. Johannes is asking which area in South Africa has the best demand to supply ratio. Is it Potch? No, it's not Potch. I think Potch also, a lot of people have been going into Potch, but I would say there's Welkom is one where the universities have asked us. George is another huge one. If you can give me 1,000 beds in George right now, I will fill it for you for 2025. Okay, George is huge. We already have deals with the university and NSFAS to help them fill those beds. So definitely a huge demand over there. PE still has lots of demand. There's also Stellenbosch. Oh my word, Stellenbosch is crazy. But I think there's a big disconnect there between property prices and what NSFAS pays. So that's kind of creating that demand crunch or the supply crunch there. because the top-ups for NASFAS students just isn't sustainable. So if you can come up with affordable type of things close to Stellenbosch, you know, you're not going to have issues finding students. And anywhere I would say that's close to a TVET college right now, because that's also a new thing that's come in, is that they've opened up the TVET colleges for direct payments. So now, and they get the same amount now as normal university students. So they have their own challenges, but at least anything close to that, because not a lot of people are looking at that yet at this point in time. Although people know about it, but they're not in it yet. So if you're first, you can kind of corner the market over there. And you can find those ones on Google Maps very easily, and just put a 2-kilometer circle around it, and you'll be able to find that. And then we're going to go to all the finance questions now. So just a quick one. Can we get the specs from NASFAS beforehand? So it's all in the regulations. There's you can Google it. It's called the what? Standard. Okay, I'll remember it now, and I'll put it for you in the chat. But you can just Google regulations for student accommodation, and it should pop up. I've also got a calculator that I'll be sharing with on my training that I'm going to do, and I will print out the list for you directly from the NASFAS accreditation portal, which is not available anywhere right now. We didn't have it when we went through that accreditation in the beginning, and I will be giving that to people also that's attending the training, and then you can be 100% prepared for your accreditation. Okay, let's talk about, we've got 3 minutes left. So we're going to quickly try and see what we can answer around funding. So I'm going to give you all the questions, and we can try and answer that. Which banks did you apply to? Did you purchase the property in your personal name or in a company? Did you provide insight into what the intended use will be? So did you tell the bank it was going to be for student accommodation? And did they finance it as standard residential, as a commercial property?
Cool. Maybe to start off with the process thing. I think what was quite critical for me when I started the process, it's key that you apply to multiple banks as well. I think the standard is that you have this inclination that your bank is going to help you, and there's the natural fit there because they know all your history. To my surprise, my bank just wasn't close to responding to me as well. So I went through multiple banks to kind of then fund the project. So that is very key when you look for funding as well. Just remind me, what was the second question?
Did you purchase it in the property in your personal name or in a property company?
So I think for me, you know, what is quite critical as well, at the time, my bond is purchased through a company. So it was in the company's name as well, which the plan is then to actually make sure that I have the proper legal structures. I'm actually in the process of establishing a second trust, family trust, where I'm going to then register this property into a trust. And I think for me, Retha, I'm assuming that those are some of the conversations and webinars which we will need to then have into the future, where you can then have and tap more in terms, because there's quite a lot of important information that needs to be covered through that process as well, in terms of getting your structures right from the word go as well. It's maybe a very good point to kind of start there as well, getting all those legal structures in place before you actually start considering getting into the property market as well.
Yeah, I think the structures are also, it's a complicated topic, and there's unfortunately not a one size fits all. Yeah. So, you know, you kind of also need to get a professional, and I'm certainly not the right person to advise you on your personal structure. So But yeah, it is a good topic for a future webinar to get, or maybe I might even do it on the YouTube channel. So look for My Property Business on YouTube, and then you can follow there, and I'll get some of the experts in to come and talk more about these questions. Gerald, just the last one. Did they finance it as a standard residential or as a commercial property? Do you know? Do you remember?
So it was financed as a standard residential property. And then as part of the whole rezoning process, we then converted it into a Res 3 property as well. But yeah, it was financed as a normal residential house.
Initially. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody for attending. There's still so many people online. If I didn't get your question, and you know, I'll like I say, I'll try and do it on the YouTube channel. I want to very quickly just give you some info on the training if you want to attend. It's I normally do it over 3 evenings. So it'll be like from 6 to 8 p.m. Every evening, because otherwise it's a lot and people struggle to absorb everything if I do it all in one day, especially if it's online. So it'll be on all 3 of the nights, 5, 6, and 7 November, 6 to 8 p.m. And you can just register your interest there on MSH training, and then I'll send you some more information. You can also use this link if you need help with anything else as well. So if you have a property and you need someone to help you, you know, to manage it, or you're struggling with your accreditation or anything like that, fill this in as well, and we'll get back to you on how we can assist you with that. The book is also on my website. That is on rethavanrooyen.com. If you want to get the book, you want to start learning and just familiarizing yourself with the process and my seriously crazy life of 2020, which is also in there, and all the weird stories that has happened. Some light entertainment as well in that book, and that you can get from the website. And then this QR code is just for that form as well, if you want to scan that rather. What is covered? What will you get as part of the training? It's 3 evenings. It'll all be online. Last year, I did a lot of face-to-face trainings, but I think, you know, sometimes we do student accommodation all over the country and not everybody can travel. So I've decided to just do it online this year to see how it'll go. I only do this training like once, maybe twice a year. So, you know, this is a good timing in November to prepare you for next year. And then, you know, sometimes I'll do like a July and so on. I didn't do any other ones this year. This was this is my only one for this year. So make sure that you attend that if you're interested. You'll also get a book and a one-on-one coaching session to just answer all your questions and to get you going, maybe help with an OTP or to structure something or to negotiate or whatever it is that you need. It doesn't matter. It's almost like a consultation session more than a coaching session. And then we will have a bus tour next year at some point. And then you can attend that bus tour, which is the one, or the show and tell that Gerard was talking about. And then you can attend that for free as well if you are around in Cape Town, if you want to learn some more. The price for this will be about 2,400 for everything. If you go on the website and you add it all up, you'll see separately it's a lot more. But this is kind of what will be the options for November. And that is me. That is all our song and dance. And like I say, I'll check if there's more questions and we'll cover it all for you on YouTube. I always need more topics and content, so you're also welcome to just send me more requests, okay? And I'll do more videos about it for you. Thank you, Gerard, and thanks everybody for attending. Till next time.
Thanks, Retha. And thanks to everyone that attended the session.